What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Optimize You. We're the podcast helping you optimize every single area of your life: health, fitness, nutrition, mindset, identity, literally everything. And we have an amazing recurring guest. This is his third fucking time on the podcast.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
Third time on the podcast, Mr. Ryan Murphy. What's going on, brother?
What is up? How are you guys doing?
Doing awesome.
Awesome, dude.
Excited to be here again.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, Matt told me the topic. I'm like, overcomplication. This is exactly what I did for like half my career. And I wanted to like sound smart, and I thought I was like coaching other coaches. When in reality, I'm like, hey, Susie, can you just like sit down and stand up? That's a squat. Nice.
Yeah.
Like start off with exercise.
Seriously.
That's like what I told everybody. Like no one cares about your femur length, your like hip socket, your like back angles or anything like that. Like sit down, stand up. All right, let's make it a little harder now. Like hold on to some dumbbells. All right, cool. Like this is how you hold on to a weight. Like I'm jumping right in. Like this is how
go for it.
But like I had a call with a physical therapist the other day, and she's just like, well, how do you do online like programming? And like I set up a program and like make sure you're doing it. And then if you have questions about form or technique, you just take a video and we do form checks all the time. And she's like, well, how, like, do you do a screening? Do you do anything like that? And I'm like, well, have you ever done a lunge before? And she's like, yeah, but like, I don't know if I'm doing it right. Yeah. So then you videotape it, and I'm going to tell you what you could do differently or where to focus differently, or, you know, to kind of like fix it. Cause like it's external cueing. She's like, but like, what about my QL and all these things? And I'm like, you are already paralyzing yourself by the what if factor of maybe not being able to do the perfect lunge. You just need to start, like go down, tie your shoe, stand back up, pretend like you're going to tie your shoe 12 times in a row. Like perfect. Like you know more because you're a physical therapist than 99% of the like world. Just start so simple, and then we can progress from there. But because you guys are so intellectual, like you're actually causing more paralysis than you need to. And that's a person that knows what they're doing. So now like, for you guys, I'm sure you've had clients like that are like kind of scared to start, and then like they think it's going to be this super complicated process, when in reality it's like, all right, well, we got 5 movements. You push shit, pull shit, you can squat with shit, you can hinge with shit, and then you can rotate with shit. Like that's pretty much, that covers like 90. And then if you want to get fancy, you have like anti-rotation, like rotation, anti-rotation, like carries, planks, stuff like that. And then if you want to get like really fancy, 7, I always said like you have groundwork. It's like that, the world's greatest stretch, and like, hip opener stretches, 90-90s, like that kind of stuff. I don't know what else that would categorize, but I think it's important. But if you want to like overcomplicate everything, you can go into joint angles and, different resistance at different points and all that stuff, when in reality, like, hey, can you move? Like, let's start with a walk. Let's not overcomplicate things.
Yeah, dude. And like specifically when we're talking about workouts, I mean, I can think of so many times when people exactly like that. I think it's the people who are very data driven in their career paths. You see it very often. They love numbers, they love metrics, they love the details. And I do too. I'm a huge fan of that too. But oftentimes I think we see people literally get in their own way before they've even started yet. And I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that people have to overcome. It's like, you're telling me that you want to do this thing, you want to get this result. We have to actually get the ball in motion before you overthink the things that haven't even happened or occurred yet. And I know you guys have dealt with that. Like more specifically, Ryan, what's something that like a common theme that you hear from somebody as a reason as to, let's say, or their fear that they bring up, a what if scenario, something that they're already blocking themselves with and they haven't even started? Like, is there a common theme that you hear from people?
Yeah, I always hear, I'm afraid to get bulky, which I like, that's a pretty easy one to diffuse now. But it was fun because I had a trainer that's like, was trying to get bulky all the time. And like, see that guy over there? He eats like an animal. He's been trying to get bulky for like 4 years, and he's still got skinny legs. Like, you're not going to get this crazy, like quad development.
Yep.
So that was like an easy one. But then I also, people are super afraid of getting hurt. And there's this weird misconception, like, oh, like so many people get hurt in the gym. And I'm like, really? I've never had anybody get hurt in the gym besides like freak accidents. Like I've had a freak accident where someone was pushing a sled and their Achilles like snapped. That was 1 out of 10 years. I had 2 Achilles injuries. One was in a group exercise class that I didn't even agree with, like how you're doing it. Like they're hopping around and doing weird shit. But like, other than these freak accidents, I've almost never had anybody get hurt back squatting or deadlifting, which is like the most commonly injured things. I'm like, well, it's because I start off simple and we actually progress. Like, that made sense. Like, day one, you've never squatted. Cool. I'm not going to put a bar on your back with 135 pounds. So you saw someone on Instagram do it, right? Or like a deadlift. I'm not going to just go throw on a straight bar deadlift. Like, let's just start with a hinge. Like, hands on the ears, do a good morning. Like, push your butt back. Like, so I would literally set up a foam roller and stand like 10 inches away and like, all right, now just try to push your butt back and hit that foam roller. Like, start off so simple. Like, you can't get hurt doing that. But people have this like weird fear. And even I remember doing like initial sessions all the time with clients, and we'd go to an incline bar. So it would be possible for everybody. You know, it had different notches, but you know, I had a pretty good judgment of what people could do before, you know, they even knew. But do a push-up. And they're like, well, are my elbows okay? Is my butt in the right spot? Is my hips like here? Are my feet too close together? Are they too far apart? And I'm like, whoa, like, do a push-up. Like, stop thinking, put your hands on the bar, and then do it. Because, like, actually, if they're narrow, it's going to do a little things more like the triceps. And you go a little wider, it's a little more like the deltoids. It's like, it's cool to do all those different things. Mess with it. Play with it. Go lower with the bar. Go higher with the bar. Maybe put your feet on the bar one day. Like, let's go fucking nuts here. You know, one day. But people, like, it's so in their head about, like, where their elbows and everything could be because they're so afraid because someone told them how dangerous it is. I don't know if it was like in middle school or like, I think that's actually where it came from, was like an introduction to weight training back in the day in like high school. Like, the teacher put the fear of God, like, if you don't follow the rules, you're going to get hurt. And I'm like, maybe that's where everybody's coming from. And I'm like, well, also when I was in middle school, I probably would take like a 2.5 pound plate and like throw it like a Frisbee to a kid, you know, like, who am I kidding? Like, it's kind of fun to like, you know, with cables, like, let's see how fast we can get it to go up and down. And, you know, let's ride, like, jump on people's backs when they're doing shit. And like, in reality, it's not a scary place. It's like, and now they have machines. Like, you can't get hurt in a machine if you're like a logical human. In my eyes, if you have questions, the gym atmosphere is probably the coolest place where you could randomly go up to the most jacked, scary looking guy in the place. And he's going to be like, oh, let me help you with that. Like,
100%.
That, I think, and that's like, I think where people are more afraid of that kind of stuff, of like the people who've been there. And when I like explain to people, I'm like, so you're afraid of the guy that has muscles or the woman that has like all these muscles and looks really good. And you're afraid that they're going to judge you. They're probably coming from a place of insecurity. First of all, that's why everybody's jacked, right? Like, if anybody is jacked, it's because they're insecure at one point, like probably where you are today. And if they can help you on your journey, that's probably going to help their ego more than anything. So like, you asking for the help is actually doing them a favor. If you look at it that way, like, they're going to get excited about it. Otherwise, most gyms have staff. They have like, you know, trainers on the floor that should be able to help you. And if a trainer's like not in a session and an asshole, like, you didn't want to work with that person anyway. Like, go ask like the trainers that are walking around, or, you know, and if they're annoyed by you, they shouldn't be trainers. Because that's like, if you're a trainer and you got in the business for helping people and someone asks you how to do a machine, you should get excited that like, oh, cool, that person trusted me to show them that. I think that's a different perspective than most people, but yeah, those are the things that stop people from even starting, I think.
Yeah, and really, like you said, like, the biggest dudes and women in the gym are like the nicest teddy bear people, honestly. Like, you kind of, they're like, every time I've talked to some of these people, that it's like, wow, you are got to be in here. Like, the person that's in there in the morning, if you go in, and they're in there in the evening, if you go in the evening, like, you see them there all the time. They're huge. And it's like, you go talk to them and they're just like the nicest person. And so I love that. And I think you're right. Like, the injury thing comes from when I have like a few injury stories, and that those are always me doing dumb shit. Like, just like trying to ego lift. I was cleaning sophomore year of high school in gym class, and I was trying to like push it like really heavy, and my knee buckled and I ended up tearing my meniscus. But that's just I was doing way too much weight with a clean form that was probably not very good. And then in college, back squatting, I fucked up my low back. But again, I was squatting like 400 pounds or some shit, like just a ton of weight. And my form was probably not like, you know, probably wasn't as good as it is now. like it was early on in my heavy squatting days. And so like those are just kind of the things. But if you do what Ryan says and you ease into it, you start with body weight stuff, you know, you don't try to focus too much on is everything perfect, and you just do it and you get better with it under less resistance, then you can start adding resistance and you can start, you know, focusing on some of those like deeper aspects of it. But what about, you know, I think that those are like the lifting side of things, huge, right? People overcomplicate the shit out of it, but reasonably enough, right? It's like a very small percentage of the equation when it comes to really completely changing somebody's health, somebody's obviously body, like, you know, intensity with weightlifting is going to help you kind of sculpt it in different ways, and it's going to be a good portion. But a lot of it comes down to those lifestyle factors, nutrition, water, all that shit. And so what would you say on those side of things, like when it comes to some of the main overcomplications that you see?
Oh my gosh. If you open Instagram, TikTok, Reels right now, you are going to be afraid of a grocery store. You know what I'm saying? Like I watch it, like it pops up on my feed all the time because I'm obviously into nutrition. But there's people out there that are like, they demonize everything, and it's like, oh my gosh, like I need to have organic. I need to have like, wait, organic, but it has to be from like Chile. I think if it's organic from Mexico, it's fucked. It's like they find like all this like little micro stuff. It's like, all right, totally understand everything that you're doing. And I'm sure you have this like theory that you're coming from a really good place, but right now you're stopping people from eating an apple. And, you know, like you've also stopped them, like you've made them afraid of like Fritos, but like, well, I didn't die eating Fritos. I'm going to just go back to that. Right. Or Doritos or whatever the chips are. Or like, you know, for me, it's like, all right, if I look at everybody's food of what they intake in a day, and I'm seeing like all these energy drinks and I'm seeing all this processed food, I don't even address that. They're like, well, I know this isn't good. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, whatever. Do you think you could like maybe just add, like, let's start with water. And then if like, let's just hit 30 ounces before you have your first energy drink. Can you try that? Well, no, I need it to get off. Awesome. So before you have your second energy drink, can we get in 30 ounces of water? No, I think I need like the second one. Okay. Can we get 30 ounces of water in around that? Let's just start there. Right. And then instead of like, I see like a lot of chips, like not like a single size serving. Are you pulling it out of a bag? And they're like, yeah, like I just like put it in a bowl, and like next thing I know, like it's gone. Cool. Do you think we could just like measure it one time and like just have a single serving one time? I want you to know, like, let's just start there. And then like, all right, well now we're creating like awareness around it. And it's like, hey, like, how's your bowel movement? Like, Ben, yeah, like it's pretty fucked up. And you know, like, well, to fix that, we need to like, let's look at fiber. Like you literally get less than 5 grams of fiber in your total day. If we just increase that at like to 10, 15 grams, you might poop every day and it might not be like diarrhea. Right. And like make it so simple that like they feel weird. Wait, that's it? Like you're a nutritionist and you're okay with meat and Fritos? I'm like, right now, yeah, like it's carbs, 3 ingredients. It could be way worse. It's just corn, salt, and corn oil, I think. And people are like, wait, nutrition guy says corn oil is okay. I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. You're eating it all the time. Like it could be, you know, I'm saying like, why make it harder than it has to be? Like it's already scary that you're going through a change. Let's not, you know, make you afraid of everything else. Let's make that like, let's do a this for that kind of situation. Like, could you eat an apple instead of Fritos? Cool. Let's start there. And, you know, make it like, again, less intimidating, because even as like an educated person, man, I learn a lot about like glyphosates and like all these other things in the world, and xenoestrogens and, you know, microplastics and seed oils. And like, yeah, it's, I think the accumulation of everything throughout a day, if you like kind of eat a lot of those things, can lead to you feeling worse and worse and worse. But it's also the accumulation of everything in your lifestyle. So if I say like, hey, how you're living is terrible, you need to completely stop doing everything, go live in like a hut in the middle of nowhere, and I need you to hunt your food and like only grow your food. Well, no one's going to do that. So all right, like we got to start somewhere. And I think the safest place to start is like a little this for that, or like a little addition before we subtract anything. Let's add like I don't know, like let's add I'm trying to think of like, like maybe when you go to Qdoba, like get the fajita veggies and instead of all the queso, like let's just try to like start there. Right.
It's so simple in nature, right? It's like thinking about, we oftentimes see, I call it majoring in the minors, right? We have people that come to us and they just get so focused on these little intricate details. And I don't blame them. Alex and I were just talking about this. When you scroll social media, I try to put myself in their shoes, and it's tough for us because we're educated. This is what we do. This is our jam. We don't really have to think much about it. We're constantly learning, but there's also the perspective from where they're at. And every time I put myself in their shoes and I just scroll through social media, I'm like, holy shit. Like, no wonder people struggle. No wonder they feel lost. It's a crazy world out there just with the information that you like. I think it was Cam that posted a video the other day where it was like, she did something where it was like,
she went grocery shopping.
Yeah, grocery shopping, right? And then showed a social media of somebody saying that this is bad for you. Don't eat this. And then she's like, oh, well, this is organic or this is fresh. Like, let me eat this. And then there's another video contradicting it. So it's like, when you're in their shoes, I can totally understand. It's so difficult. But I will say this. The second you catch yourself majoring in the minors, to Ryan's point, he's not going to try, when he brings a client on, he's saying that he's not going to try to completely vastly change what you're currently doing right now. He's going to meet you where you're at, which is what we all do. And if you can make these gradual incremental changes where you're willing to make change, you can progressively build off of that. Oftentimes we see people that kind of just take a cold turkey approach or the all or nothing, going from what you're doing, eating right now, the fast food out multiple times a week, the alcohol 3 to 5 times a week right now. And you're trying to cut all of that out and eat all single ingredient, whole food, high quality sources. It's great. It looks good on paper and absolutely you will get phenomenal results.
Yeah.
But we're looking farther beyond that. Right. And so I think you've seen people, or you've probably dealt people with that too, Ryan, with your experience. Have you seen people that are like, man, I'm just going to go cold turkey and I'm going to eat perfect from here on out?
So this is kind of like, it's exciting. Okay. So this is like kind of a dopamine situation. So like there's so much going on psychologically when you do this. So like, maybe someone listening right now, they have bought a program. They, hired a coach or whatever, and they get that dopamine hit. They're like, I'm taking action for myself. I'm super excited. I'm going to go do Optavia. I'm going to go do Whole30. I'm going to do these things. Like, and you get excited about it initially. And like, cause anytime you buy anything, you get a little excitement. Like that it's human nature. Like anytime you buy something that's going to make your life better, more enjoyable, anything like I bought new golf clubs last week, super excited about it still. Like every time I look at it, I'm like, it's cool. But like, for instance, back into this situation, it's like, all right, this is a dopamine hit. All right, you go buy a meal plan. That's a dopamine hit. You got a plan. I'm going to go cold turkey. Well, the reason I don't like cold turkey is because, well, have you ever done it before? Like, have you ever done like, say, Weight Watchers and they give you point systems and it's like eat super clean this way, that, or whatever. And then what happens when you go out to, I don't know, dinner with your husband and like there's like a pasta dish that he has and you like want it, but you can't have it because like there's got to be something like with the sauce. Like the sauce isn't like Weight Watchers approved or whatever. Or you don't know, you're uncertain. And then you're like, all right, well, I don't think I should have it. And then, or you have resentment and then you do have it. Or, you have this weird relationship. Like, I know I shouldn't be eating this, but I want it right now. Or like Halloween's around the corner. My kid just came home with a bag full of Snickers and I love Snickers. I have no control over Snickers. And I'm like, all right, so like going cold turkey and just saying no, you're going to resent your kid. You're going to like be upset. You're going to like say, we need to get rid of all this stuff. And like, you're going to make him afraid of it or her afraid of it, your child. You're going to demonstrate poor behavior because you have no control because that's like your identity. All right. So one thing that I always say is now, like when I onboard a client, I'm like, hey, cool. Like you just had an amazing dopamine hit. It's exciting right now. I want you to know moving forward, this is going to take a little bit of work. It's not going to be as exciting as it is right now. You're not going to be motivated the whole time. So let's just nip it in the butt right now. Like, let's just say that's the most motivation you're going to get all program for the next 6 months is literally the second you signed up. Now expectation is like, all right, this does take work. And what I always like to talk about is like that imperfect action too, right? So if you are going cold turkey and you like donuts and there's donuts at work, you're going to be salivating. You're going to be struggling. You're going to have like all this willpower until you don't. Like willpower, like, and discipline, I think are extremely overrated because like not everybody's David Goggins, right? Not everybody has gone through Navy SEAL training on how to be super disciplined. And if you can't be disciplined and then you feel negative about it, well, that's like a sure proof way for you to like never really have a good relationship with whatever it is, compared to, hey, my kid went trick-or-treating. Oh man, he's got Snickers. I love Snickers. I'm going to have a little fun-sized Snickers. I'm like, oh man, it does taste as good as I remember. And I also know that the next piece is going to taste the same as the last piece. And I already had my dopamine hit from that. I'm good. Hey, like, go have at it, buddy. Like, what's your favorite? And then like have that bond and that relationship and that conversation around like having an appropriate amount. And then that to me just seems like it could last longer and it makes sense to me. I'm also coming off of like every super strict diet that you could probably try and felt like a failure. And that's like what went through my head. How I failed another program, gained the weight back. Like I couldn't eat super clean anymore. Like, cause I just like, I don't know, beer or pizza. Like, I don't know, 95% of America, you know? So like, am I the anomaly? No, probably not.
Well, I think you're spot on, dude. And that's, the whole thing about just really, first off, going back to like what you said about just adding instead of subtracting, I think that is just so key, because just so many people do the cold turkey approach or I'm going to do 15 different things all at once, right? And that kind of plays into what you're saying as well. Like that is my fucking default, is to do like, oh, I'm going to do this drastic shit. Like I kind of swing from one side of the pendulum to the other. That's like my thing, is like, oh, it was just a fucking shit show. And then now it's like, he's on it. That's kind of been my thing. And I've gotten better and better throughout. But I think that, one of the things when you do that cold turkey approach, or when you do this whole restriction, certain things are off limits. I love donuts and I'm not going to eat donuts because that's not a part of my plan type of thing, is that for some people, not all, it can lead to that binging too. And that like that whole binge restrict cycle with certain foods, or especially when you see like these drastic approaches of just super low calories, or just like the Optavia type approach, or all this kind of bullshit out there that has people eating 1,000 calories a day, is that it leads to that binging. And then that leads to somebody feeling guilt and shame and kind of getting in that cycle of restricting because they want to feel good again, and they want to feel like their body is in good shape again. And then that leading to the binging again, and kind of getting in that cycle that I personally was stuck in for years and years and years. But I think that's huge, just with the whole approach of just changing like one thing, or, not feeling like you have to go absolutely crazy with all of this shit. Cause it is like Matt said, it is just such a crazy industry where there's a million different opinions, and you can go through TikTok and see somebody talk about how bananas are terrible, and somebody else talk about how bananas are amazing. And I'm definitely on the side of bananas are amazing and you should fucking eat your bananas. But it's crazy just how, and honestly, that depends on the person too, right? Like if it's somebody who's diabetic, you're probably not going to want to throw a bunch of bananas down your throat. But like if you're somebody who's just no health problems, whatever, like you're just trying to get healthier, then there's tons of fucking nutrients in fruit and veggies and all this stuff that some people will say are bad for some reason.
A banana post-workout is probably the easy, digestible, quickest carb ever to just shut off cortisol from a workout. Put that with a little bit of peanut butter and some protein powder. You got like a solid meal, makes you feel full, gives you sustainable energy. And sorry, like I'm a nerd about that stuff, but like I love, like I'm not gonna demonize bananas ever. Like you said, if you're, if you have like glycemic index issues or insulin issues, maybe that's a thing to talk about. But for most of us, like you're afraid of a banana. Like I've had people that oh, I can't have fruit. I'm like, what's wrong with fruit? Like, blueberries, like a quarter cup of blueberries, like hardly spikes your blood sugar at all. So are you worried about the blood sugar response? Are you worried about what are you worried about? And then they don't know, they've heard it from someone, right? And then like, okay, cool. Like, well, hear it from me. Like blueberries are cool, like super like antioxidants. Like there's fiber in them. They're actually extremely low calorie, great snack. I personally hate them because I think they taste like mush, right? Like I don't eat blueberries, but
I
people
love them. I love them.
I do too.
Yeah, no, I'm like an anti-blueberry guy. Like blackberries, I'm all in. Raspberries, strawberries, like all that good stuff. But even like Tom Brady, he's like, I'll never eat a strawberry. There's so many chemicals on it. And like, okay, well, yeah, for you who is getting paid for your position and your physique and your like health your whole life, who also can afford a private chef to prepare everything anyway, who like has every resource possibly available. Like I understand why you could go get some exotic fruit from somewhere else because it's got all these benefits from the rainforest. Well, for like Jane down the road who's got like 3 kids, like strawberries are super easy to cut up and put on my kids' like plate to give them something more nutritious than like Cheetos. All right. So like for you, totally cool. Tom Brady, like stay away from strawberries. I get it. Scared the shit out of me. Like what?
That's crazy, man. And that's exactly like, you have to take that with a grain of salt. Like who's saying that, right? Like where's it coming from? So I always like to paint it in this picture too. Like you'll see the studies and the testimonials out there and the projects that people have literally done. And I like to explain it to people like this too. By no means are we saying like, go ahead and just eat shit and you'll be okay. And we'll kind of just gradually tweak it. And we just want you to keep eating the processed foods that you're currently eating. We're not saying that, but what we are saying is there is a more sustainable approach. And you will see the studies and protocols that people have done. Like, look, there's the Twinkie diet, right? There's the people that have eaten McDonald's. And as long as they're highly aware of their portion controls and the amount of calories that they're consuming, they can manipulate and they can even see not only their blood markers and biomarkers improving, but their body fat off their body as well, right? And so their overall
also,
health
how are
improves.
they feeling during that time? Like you don't know how they're not talking about their bowel movement. They're just like, yeah, dude lost 15 pounds in like 30 days by eating McDonald's. Well,
Dude,
he might have been starving every day. He might have felt like absolute shit. The guy might not have been able to have like an erection. You don't know.
Yeah.
I would bet those things are like probably the case though.
Yeah. It's like you don't know the full story, right? It's like you got to take that into consideration. And then like knowing that that's the case, I think Jordan Syatt just did a pretty cool one too. I don't know if you guys saw that, right? Like he's purposely spiking his blood sugar. So I have that a lot of times too, where I'll talk to clients where they're in extreme fearfulness of spiking their blood sugar with one thing being fruit, like we were just talking about, right? Like that's a huge fear of a common question that I hear from clients. And it's like, him doing that study was perfect. And if you guys didn't see it, he basically is purposely spiking his blood sugar, continues to progress and get results. And he is eating things that are processed. He's eating candy, he's eating crap, right? Like he's purposely trying to spike his blood sugar and shows that you can still have those things and include them in an entirety and in whole, as long as your diet altogether is pretty well rounded, right?
Yeah,
so it's go ahead.
Another thing too that he's coming from is like he has been aware of his metabolism for a very long time. It's like he's a very like strong, compact guy. He's got a lot of muscle mass on him already. Mm-hmm. He's a very disciplined person. So he even talked about in an interview that he was in a pretty extreme deficit because he didn't want anybody to be like, oh, there's just water manipulation. So he lost like, I think 15 pounds over the course of the month, just like to prove a point. Like he spiked his blood sugar every day and he still was able to lose weight. So it's not like the blood sugar spike, but he's also like, I'm a realist. I love the data and stuff like that. And if for most people, I hope that they just are more aware that now, like it's not the blood sugar spiking that's causing you to like get fat. And like I'm running a challenge right now, and I had a eye-opening conversation with everybody on the kickoff call. And I just like, hey, the best form of self-love is like straight communication, direct, and recognizing where you're at first. I think like everybody, when they're talking about like loving your body and loving yourself, they're like, oh, I love my wrinkles and my skin the way it is. And like they have these affirmations. Saying that out loud to me never worked. Like I love being a little chubbier than I probably should be. Like even I can't even say it. But like I love my love handles. Like I have them. I'm not gonna lie. Like I love, that little bit of like around my stomach that like hangs over my waist or whatever. I'm not saying anti-body positivity, but if you truly love yourself and you want to be the best version of yourself and you don't want to be physically in shape to just feel better, move better, like have better joint health, that like muscle feels better on your body than fat does. Like, there's a million psychological things and beneficial things. But what I said on the things, like, so the best form of self-love is just like being straightforward with yourself and not trying to lie and beat around the bush. With that being said, you are the perfect result of everything that you've been doing for the past 6 months, the past 6 years, the past 16 years. You are the accumulation of where you're at today. You've adapted to exactly what you've been like the stressors that you've been implementing on your life, right? You are where you are because of the decisions you've made. And when you stop blaming everything else, like, TikTok told me to do this, or like I'm blaming my mother for my genetics, or like I'm blaming, like the cost of organic food. Well, like non-organic apples are still like $1.29 a pound. For me, I just found out there's an apple orchard literally down the road. It's $4 to fill up this bag, and this bag's huge. It's like, I literally am never going to go buy apples at a grocery store from the second that they're in harvest, ever. It's so affordable. Like, beans are cheap and they're a good source of fiber and like a good slow digesting carb. Sorry, side note on all those like little, like, but you're the perfect result of where you're at today, and you're in 100% of control on where you're going to be in 6 months. And if you get to like, oh, but like Halloween and the holidays and Christmas, cool, those are 3 days. There's 3 days out of the next like 45, like 50 or whatever. What about the other ones? Like, why don't you just dominate the other 47 out of those 50 and you think you like would win? So like what we decided during the challenge is like, we have 3 anchors, 3 non-negotiables, 3 things that are going to be like things that you will do. And it's not like, I hope they happen at the end of the day. If you say you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And this is where I have a hard line. So like, have you ever heard that people have like a boundary that they're never going to cross? So like, for instance, when it comes to stealing, well, if you're at work and you send like a personal email on work time, technically you're stealing from that company, right? You're stealing time. Or you're doing like personal things, like you're printing off your program that you got from your trainer at work and you're using company resources to do it. Technically that's stealing, right? But are you going to go to a grocery store and maybe like I don't know, forgot to scan something on one of those self-checkouts, or like, you grabbed 4 donuts instead of 3 donuts in your box or whatever, and no one checked you didn't get in trouble, but like technically that's stealing. You're okay doing that. Well, are you okay like robbing a bank? No. All right. That's a hard, not going to go that far. Or like when it comes to drugs and alcohol. All right. I'm comfortable having like a glass of wine, but I don't do hard liquor. Or I can have like 1 or 2 drinks, but like I won't do more. Or, drug wise, like I might do aspirin, but I might do Vicodin. I might do, like, if it's prescribed from a doctor, some Oxycontin, but I'm not doing heroin. Hard line. No needle is going to come near me to inject me with anything. That's like something I won't do, right? And the only reason I said Oxycontin is like, that's what I got prescribed when I was a senior in high school. Ironically, I'm like, dude, like looking back, you guys serious? Sorry, so again, side note, but like I have a hard line. I'm never going to do heroin. I want you guys to look at not fulfilling your non-negotiables, like that boundary that you will never cross. Like it's something that is instilled with you, because I'm asking for 3 things. I'm asking you to drink water. Like some people, it's like a bedtime. Like I'm not asking for you guys to completely overhaul your life. It's generally things that I think are going to move the needle. And we actually have conversations about what that is for everybody in our challenge. Because I cap it at 30, so I could just like have a really good connection with 30 people in my challenges. So that's one thing. But treat these like, something that you're absolutely going to fulfill no matter what. And then print out this calendar. Maybe do it at company resources. And then all I want you to do is you write your 3 things on the side. On the bottom, there's a spot where you write your why, every reason why you want to be able to do these things, for your kids, for your health, for, your emotional state, for like being the best version, or whatever you want to put it on there. And all you do, I stole this from Nick Ross, you write a W when you win. If you hit all 3, they're like, they have to be yes, no things. Like 80 ounces of water. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Track everything that day. Well, if you put something in your mouth that you didn't track, it's a no. Hard no. It's unfortunate. Whatever. It's not a big deal. Like Still, if you have like take an L, it's probably a better day than you've typically had in the past. But I never want you guys to repeat 2 L's in a row. That's it. Because I think that you guys are going to struggle. You're going to fall off. But if you fall off and you stay off and get back on 4 days later, well, now, we're focusing on like 50% of the week. And if we only win 50% of the week, I think we could still come out better than you were. If you want your fast results and then you like never take 2 L's in a row, like now that's how you get faster results. You just have more good days and bad days. So at the end of the course of the year, I told everybody in the challenge, I don't necessarily want you to lose all the weight before New Year's, but I want you to be able to step up New Year's Day ready to crush any diet program that you choose. And like ultimately, like 2024 is your year to accomplish everything in the first 4 to 5 months. And like that's where I'm coming from. It's like, all right, slow play. Get yourself settled. Let's do it right. Let's do it these healthy ways. But there's like so many little things about how I word. It's like, this isn't a non-negotiable. Like, I hope it happens at the end of the day. Like that. And I think that's where most people go into like, Weight Watchers. Like, I tried to hit my points. Well, did you try to hit your points when you had your third donut or no? Like, did you try to get all your workouts in, or did you like set your alarm and then hit snooze 10 times so you didn't wake up and go do your workout? Like, did you try? Well, I was really tired. Okay, cool. So that extra 50 minutes is more important to you than like following through for yourself. Like, side note for me, if you hit the snooze, you're literally going against the last decision you made the night before. So like you're already contradicting yourself within the first seconds of you waking up that day. So like for anybody hearing this, just don't hit the snooze, knowing that. But I think if people like took things a little bit more seriously, another thing is like, I also understand that everybody in my program is a parent. They're busy. They're professionals. They have a lot going on. So we had to make these non-negotiables like, hey, when you've had days where shit hits the fan, right? On those days, do you think you could still hit these 3? Well, if I really like, if it's a step goal, I might have to like wake up at like 30 minutes earlier to go for a walk. Cool. Can you do that? Yeah. Like then you can make sure it happens regardless of if, the shit does hit the fan. Right. So that's what I'm excited about. I don't even know where that started from, but I'm glad you stayed with me.
I fucking love it though, dude. I think that's awesome. I'm a huge non-negotiable guy myself. And I think that it's such a huge thing where, me and Matt have talked a lot. I use the power list, which is what Andy Frisella always talks about. And it's like 5 critical tasks for the day, not bullshit habits that you already have, but like critical things that you got to get done that are going to move the needle in your life. Right. And once those are done, you circle that W at the top, kind of like what you have your clients do or in the challenge. You're having people do what Nick Ross talks about as well. But that's that confidence builder. That's the momentum builder. And what you're doing with that challenge, right, is like you're getting them wins. They're stacking wins. They're building momentum. And once you do that, it's a lot easier. Like the motivation starts coming, right? You talk about motivation and everybody's so like, I'm not motivated to do this. I wasn't motivated to work out. I wasn't motivated to go on that walk. All this bullshit that people say all the time. And the thing is it comes from action. It comes from stacking wins. It comes from building momentum. Then you start to get a little bit more wind behind you, and you start to become easier. So I think that's huge. And one thing I'm so big on when it comes to like overcomplication of all of this shit, and I just did a post on it today, is literally I think it comes down to the basics. We talked about there's all of this crazy shit out there. Like I think almost to stand out in the industry these days, you have to have some like absurd fucking plan that people follow. We cut off a leg and we, like some fucking complete bullshit that people have you follow, right? Like it's in, works for people or whatever. Like, I don't know, but either way, like, I think it comes down to literally the most basic ass shit ever. Like the getting quality sleep, managing your stress, staying hydrated, consistent exercise, daily movement, and eating quality foods, getting enough protein in, right? Like those like 6 things. I kind of put protein under quality foods when I talk about it. But I think that those, like if people were to just look and be like, what should I be doing? Look at those 6 areas and where are you good? Where are you not good? Can you find 2 to 3 habits out of those areas and just work through them and then work down the list? And eventually you'll be a completely different person. You'll probably feel really fucking good. You'll be a lot healthier. Your body will change. All of that stuff will happen. So that's kind of where I like to go from, is like this little base thing of just it's not fun. It's not easy, or people don't love to hear. It's not sexy, right? Those things aren't sexy. They're not gonna, draw a lot of eyes, but that's where it all comes from, really.
Yeah, everybody's trying to get eyeballs on them by doing like something like, oh, this sexy new easy way. Like everybody wants it quicker, easier, like less resistance. Like, and I'm like, fat loss is fucking boring. But also you're gonna have more energy, and you can go get your excitement elsewhere. Like, don't get your excitement from a fat loss program. Get your excitement from like being able to go have fun with your kids, or run around, or like go hiking, or do new adventures that you never thought you could do in the body that you used to have, right? Like, go get your excitement elsewhere. When it comes to breakfast, lunch, like, keep it simple. Just do the things that are going to make you have the most energy. Like, I know there's emotional ties to everything, but why are you emotionally tied to every meal every day, right? Like, I get birthdays, I get like holidays, I get like, like my dad used to make this one breakfast for me. Cool. Like, have that periodically. Like, have your bacon scrambler with a bunch of cheese or whatever. But like, you also probably ate that at like 8 a.m. and you probably had the shit at like 9 and then like felt pretty crummy till like noon, right? And then had to take a nap at noon. Like, bring that awareness to it. One thing that I want to tell you guys, I just sent out an email about this yesterday and actually got a lot of feedback. So if you're like kind of confused and overwhelmed, these are 7 questions that I ask people, and I have it in my program, and it's how you rate your life. And then it tells you on what you need to fix, or like where you should put energy towards. So the first one, so I'll just go through them real quick. It's physical, nutritional, emotional/mental, financial/professional, relationships, social. So relationships with your family, and then your relationships with your friends, 2 different ones, and then spiritual. So what you do is you go 1 to 10 on all those. So physically, like, I would put a 10 as like an Olympic athlete, like clean, does everything, like super strong, feels really good. Where do you fall? Or even for you, is like maybe a 10 is just you, how like the best you've ever felt in your life, right? Where are you at there? Nutritionally, like 10, I'm not even going to say is like eating clean 100% of the time. I'm saying like you have a good relationship with food. You fuel yourself. You have your metabolism in a good place. If you're a guy, you got morning wood. If you're a female, you got a consistent period. Like, the basic nutritional health, emotional/mental. And for that one, like, you have an open like conversation about your mental state. Often, to me, it's like a 10 is like, you have extreme awareness around what it is. Maybe you're in therapy. Maybe you have that person or that friend. But you don't have like a lot of that anxiety or that like depression that you hold into yourself, because like I feel anxious every day. I also talk about it every day. Like, I think my mental and emotional health are pretty good, right? Because I have outlets that I'm comfortable with. Financially, professionally, like a 10 out of 10 is like, you can not be stressed about like, bills and whatnot. Professionally, you're doing something that you don't hate every day. Relationships with your family, I think scale 1 to 10. I'm not saying like, you're the Brady Bunch or anything if you're a 10, like, but you are aware of it, right? A 1 would be like, you hate showing up and you're super resentful towards the people in your life the most, right? Social, your relationships with the people that you choose to be around, right? Like, where are those friendships? And for that one, I always put 2 as like, if you got shitty friends that are always bringing you down, that's going to bring your score down. Like, to me, right? If you're hanging out with people that want to constantly, get drunk, do things like that aren't moving you to your best self, that's, a social conversation. But also like, where are you putting out? So right now, my social life is probably near the bottom where it's ever been. If I would rank this, it's probably like a 4 or 5 for me. But also like, it's also not that important to me right now. But spiritually, like, just I'm not going to get like spiritual on everybody. I know this isn't like a gospel podcast or anything like that, but spiritually, you are aware that there's something more, like, intended more for you than just surviving through life. You have something that you have, like, I'm not going to say faith in, even because I don't want to go there. By the way, I'm Christian, but having something that you know that there's something bigger out there for you, and there's a purpose. If you don't have a purpose, that's like the quickest way to depression. So that's why I put it in there. So I stole that from a previous coach. I stole it from a couple of other areas. I've tweaked it a little bit, but those are my 7. And what you do, you add them up 1 to 10, and then you divide that by 70. And when I have a lot of these people do it, they're reporting back like 30, 40% across the board. And like, so right now your life score is like a 30%. It's like half of failing, you know? But what's the lowest one? Like your spirituality, like, okay, cool. Like go find your purpose. Like let's figure that one out. Let's get that a 10 out of 10. And I'm not saying that looks like going to church every day, but like we can talk about that then. We can bring awareness around something so then we can fix it. Oh, my relationships with my family suck. All right, well, can you change your family? Can you have like better conversations? Is it on you or is it on them? Or is it like, do you guys need like counseling or do you want to have that conversation? If it's you and your wife and you like lay next to her in bed every night and you're not having these conversations, let's start there, right? And let's get that into a good spot. If it's financial or professional, maybe you got to leave your job. Maybe if it is financial, like where are your spending habits? Like let's fix it, right? And you can go through all these things and actually like quantitatively improve your whole quality of life. Because like I'm a logical thinker. I'm like, all right, well, does that make sense? Yes or no? It's not like, oh man, I emotionally think that I should focus on my finances more. Right?
Yeah, it's so cool, man. And that's if you guys are listening to this and you're like, guys, this is all great information, I'm just not quite sure where to start. Ryan just gave you 7 questions to ask yourself. And I love how you broke it down to a percentage base. So you can literally just score and rate your life and then pick from there where you want to choose to improve on. And both Alex and Ryan before that also gave you guys a super tactical step to just get the ball rolling. They both talked about their non-negotiables. Those 3 things that you're like, these are deal breakers. These are things I'm willing to commit to. They might be uncomfortable. And I'll lean into that and say that if they are uncomfortable, they're probably the right things that you should be doing. Because I think a lot of people are looking for this process to be as frictionless as possible, as seamless as possible. And on the surface, that sounds great. But you can look back at any time, anything that you've done that was worthwhile, that you got yourself in an uncomfortable situation in order to grow. That's probably where your most growth happened, was from that scenario. So that's what I encourage people to lean into this too, is go through those 7 questions. Think about your 3 power list or non-negotiables. Those things are going to help you lean into the direction that you want to go, the direction that you feel like you're capable of, and you can set those out, and that'll give you some groundwork. So if you guys are listening to everything that we're saying, and we're like, all right, I get it. I just don't, I am that person that overcomplicates it. Just start there. You guys have a beautiful foundation and a platform to start from. I love to say, my saying with my clients is always just start sloppy. You stop overcomplicating it, right? You got to start somewhere, get the ball rolling. And the beautiful thing about that is once you create those 3 non-negotiables, once you go through that series of 7 questions, you guys rewind that and go back to what Ryan was saying, you guys will have the answers that you need. And then you can tweak and formulate. And it's like this, it's this sculpture that you're creating as you go. I think people want to have this beautiful sculpture before they start and then like take this straight line path straight to it. And that's just not how it works, specifically in health and fitness. And I'm not sure there's too many things that work in a straight line like that. But as soon as you figure that out and understand that it's just a constant chisel and chipping and shaping and molding as you go, the quicker you get going, the faster you can get started.
Yeah, I know. Building on that a little bit is like, I think also if you value something, you're going to want to keep it longer, right? Like I value my new golf clubs. I want to use them all the time. But in all seriousness, like if you really put the work in, and like you're saying, like it in theory, it should be frictionless to get started. But like, to be honest, like you're not going to get a 6-pack abs. Like just hope it happens one day. Maybe I'll do some sit-ups every once in a while. I'm going to like start eating a few more salads. Great place to start. Not going to get you to like that, by the way, Matt, I saw one of your posts. Dude, you're ripped.
Looking shredded.
You got
Thanks, dude.
looking good. Way to go. But what I'm kind of saying is like, if you guys do try to take like quote unquote shortcuts and you go like, and again, I don't know everybody's situation, but if you're like on that Wegovy or Ozempic or, the semaglutide, and the research has shown that a lot of people gain the weight back. And the reason that I think that people gain the weight back after they come off it is literally they don't value it as much. because they really didn't change that much. They changed their behaviors of not feeling hunger as much. So they'd listen to their body a little bit more. Well, if you take Ozempic and then you do the work aside of it, like where you're hitting protein goals and you really double down on like good nutrition and good activity, and you build these foundational habits, and then it's no longer because of Ozempic that you lost weight, it's because of the action that you took. And then you're going to have a little bit of pride. And thing about pride is like, you're not going to want to like gain the weight back because you're already proud. Like no one wants to give back the championship belt after they won it, right? Like nobody wants to, once when you're on the top, everybody wants to come get you. But like also you're going to hold on to it harder. Like you're going to want it more. You're also going to have the foundational habits that like you got in the first place. So I'm not saying like I might even be pro Ozempic. I don't know. If you're doing the work with it, and don't try to take shortcuts. Don't try to find like these quick fixes and the things that, things that do things for you. And, even if it is hiring a coach, you're hiring a coach, not a crutch, right? Like the coach is going to get you to where you want to be by making it like a few decisions for you, but hopefully they're circling back to why we're doing it. And if you understand the why, you're going to have the education. You're never going to lose the education compared to follow this meal plan. Well, why should I follow that meal plan? Because it's a good meal plan. I made it. I'm a nutrition guy. I know what I'm talking about. It's a good meal plan. You're going to get fiber, protein, carbs is good, right? Well, the second that meal plan's not an option at a wedding dinner or like, night out or anything like that, you're going to feel like a failure and you're not going to know what to do. Well, this kind of looks like the meal plan. Well, so then the coach is going to come back. Well, you failed because you couldn't follow 7 out of 7 days. And then you're going to feel like shit. And that, like, the only reason I know this to be true is because I've worked with people who worked with coaches in the past. Like, what's different about you? I don't know. What'd your coach tell you in the past? Well, he gave me a meal plan, and then like, it just got hard to follow. I'm like, okay, cool. Did you ever learn like what macronutrients are? They're like, yeah, I know how to like track it. Like, it's part of the meal plan. And I'm like, okay. So like, I guess I'm different because I want you to like know what that looks like in every facet of life. At Thanksgiving dinner, how to like get your meals right. Like at, breakfast, lunch, dinner, breakfast out, dinner out, like fast food situations, like traveling wise. Like I want you to learn what works best for you in every facet of your life. You can have a playbook of what to reference over and over and over again compared to trying to like figure it out. And I hope like, I hope I didn't disappoint my coach. Like you can't disappoint me. You can't disappoint me because I've probably done way worse. Like I'll go out on a limb. I've gotten way more drunk than you. I've eaten way more chicken nuggets than you. I've I've had way more fried foods and like binge sessions and like sleeves of Oreos than you probably did. The only reason I'm not overweight, one, I fell in love with weight training when I was like 13 years old. I started like developing habits like that very early on. I liked being active. I was in sports. And when I like went through college and everybody else stopped playing sports, I kept on trying to play something. I also just love playing. Like I love running around acting like a kid. And I'm trying to like instill that in my kids. Like, hey, let's be as active as possible. So for me, I literally will just drop and do push-ups in front of them. And then they'll do push-ups like on me, around me. We'll wrestle a little bit. We'll have some fun with it. Like, and I want them to just see what being active looks like because like, to be honest, I see a lot of kids that just like have their face in iPads. My kid does too. I'm not going to lie. Like I use that iPad when we go out because it keeps him occupied so he's not screaming at me when I got another 1-year-old hanging on my arm over here. Eating out right now is miserable, but like in a time and a place. And if I can just show healthy habits, like how easy it has to be. So like Saturday morning, we're watching TV, commercial comes on. Let's do some push-ups. Like let's run around the yard. Let's like, hey, like, and that's what I think we're missing. When we were kids, we used to have commercials. So we'd like, I got a minute. I go to the fridge to get breakfast real quick. I could go to the bathroom. Now it like goes so fast. So I'm like, every time that like a show ends or a video ends, I was like, all right, pause it. Let's do something. This is your like in life commercial. Like no one knows the stress of having to get back for your show to start because you couldn't rewind it. And you had to like run across the house. Your mom told you to put your laundry away or something like that. And you're like, but I got to get back for like Saved by the Bell. It's going to get back on. All right, another tangent. Way offline, but like I really appreciate everything that you just said, Matt and Alex. Like I think if people just take one little nugget from here and then hone in on just like one thing, you're gonna see so much progress compared to like being in that comparison trap. what is that, like comparisons, like the thief of joy or something like that.
Yeah. No, that's money, dude. That's so money. I love the tangents too. I love the tangents. I think they're good, and you're always getting something out of it. You know, it's it's good shit. I mean, you're creating a lifestyle. You're sending it down to your kids. Like that's awesome. That's what it's all about, right? It's not about. I think that's the difference between what a lot of people do and what people that are successful long term do, is like they're becoming the healthy person instead of just doing healthy habits for a short period of time to get to a result, right? It's if you can change your identity and change your habits, that's where it goes, because you kind of rise and fall to your identity and your habits, right? You rise and fall to those. Like, so if you still have the identity of a fat person, you'll lose the weight, but if you never change your identity and raise that, you're always going to fall back down. You're going to fall back into those old patterns. You're going to gain the weight back. All that shit's going to happen. So I think that, everything that both of you guys have been saying is fucking money. Ryan, dude, it's awesome to have you on. We'll have to have you on like every few months. You'll just be our big recurring
regular
roundtable guest.
Build up all this like thoughts in my head and just spew it out on your podcast.
Yes.
Confessional. It's just the confessional of Ryan. But dude, where can people, like, where do you want us to send people this time? Is there anything I know you said you just are in a challenge. Like, is there any place we can send people for you?
Like I really like working with parents. I'm a father of 2 boys, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I really enjoy helping parents because, like, my biggest fear is that my kids have the same insecurities that I had growing up. And people always like, if you could go back in time and relive your life, would you do it? And for me, I would do it in a heartbeat. If I knew what I knew now at 34 and like reinserted it into like Ryan at age 12, man, I wouldn't have fucked up so much. And I think like I could have had like this amazing life, but obviously you learn from those things. You can't do it. But if I can instill like the values and the things that I found to be valuable at 34 into my 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and then I can teach like you how to do it for yourself so that you can impact your children, like that shit just fires me up because, man, like I wasn't really bullied in high school or middle school or high school. I just didn't have like a lot of like really meaningful relationships. And I think that's something that I'm missing out on now. Like I mentioned my social life, like, well, I really don't have many from my, my previous life or my current life. Right. Like I have a very small social circle. And I guess if you're looking for me, I do have a Facebook group. It's Energy and Weight Loss Secrets for Busy Parents. That's probably the lowest frictionless thing. Just go on there, search Energy and Weight Loss Secrets, and it'll pop up. It's me literally on a walk with my kid and my wife in the background. And my goal is just to, like, again, make it frictionless for you guys to get started. And then inside there, I got resources and conversations, and I give away coffee like a lot because I think that people just value coffee. So I do some fun giveaways and like challenges right now. We got a big challenge right now, but weekly, mini challenges. Otherwise, like on Instagram is kind of like, I don't know if I'm in love with like all the reels. Like Matt's like, it is harder. I'm like, my Instagram right now is like how simple fat loss is. But
dude, it's tough.
It's the _Coach Murphy on Instagram. But yeah, I guess like my biggest thing too is like you guys are talking about it, overcomplicating everything. If it's stopping you from taking action, man, fuck it. Like just start sloppy. That is like my favorite saying. Like it doesn't matter how you start. Like, and like I said, I've fucked up. That's the reason that us 3 might have good insight for you is because we struggled there before, and we fortunately had the right person in the right place that gave us the right information at the right time for us to learn from it. And now you don't have to make that mistake over and over and over again because we've already made it. We've learned from it. We know strategies of how to get out of it. That's what I think a good coach is, right? Like when you think about baseball coaches, like your best coach has probably the most baseball experience. So he's seen plays, he's seen bounces, he's seen different situations and knows how to like, strategize and put like the perfect lineup in for like that perfect pitcher and whatnot. Like they've done that because they're so experienced. Or football or soccer, right? Or whatever. Like if you guys are looking for coaches, look for the ones that have the experience, right? Like that can meet you where you're at. They're not just like, I'm ripped. You could be ripped if you act like me. Like no one's going to act like me. Like I know that. And I don't want you to like act like me. I don't want you to have the same problems that I have. But like if we have strategies That's what I get excited about too. If just making it possible for anybody. Because I haven't met anybody, like we were talking about before this. If you come in with an open mind, and one of the hardest things to do is change your identity. And I'm not saying I can change who you are ultimately. Like that's something that you got to do. Like you got to do the work to change your identity of like who you show up as daily. But if you struggle to show up for yourself and you lose weight, gain it back all the time, if you jump from diet to diet, well, cool. So did I for fucking 10 years. Right? Hi, I'm Ryan.
Yeah, we're literally just, I like to describe us as like a junkyard. We're a scrapyard of just trial and error over and over and over. So like countless times, more times than you can think, like we've messed it up. And that's how people get advanced in what it is that they choose to pursue too, right? So awesome stuff, man. We could go on for hours. What's that?
Yeah.
I said I fucked it up last week.
Yeah, dude. And we will continue to. We will continue to.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's a good thing for people to know too. Is you talked about it briefly, Ryan, but like it just how quickly can you get back on it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of the big thing. Is if you can just get back on it as quickly as possible, know that you're just 1 second away from getting back on track and getting back to the shit that makes you feel good, then you'll be in good shape.
Yeah, I have a client that signed up yesterday, and she's like, I just struggle like getting back from vacation. I'm like, well, how often do you go on vacation? She's like once a month. I'm like, that's cool. But if you struggle every time you go on vacation, then you come back and it takes you like 2 weeks to get off, like you're never on a plan. Like you need to have like a wheels up, wheels down mentality, right? Like if we can fix that, man, now we're onto something, right? Like whatever is, and like that's the thing that you mentioned. It's if you have more wins and losses or more good days and bad days, that's what progress looks like. And progress doesn't have to look like 100% all the time. And there's nowhere else in life that you have to be an all-in 100% all the time. You will not get fired by giving an 80% effort from almost any job. And right now it's like 50% effort at any job. You can keep almost any job. It's impossible to get fired at like a lot of places, I swear. But like you can show up not perfect at work and you won't get fired. You can show up not perfect like in parenting. I literally show up every day. I'm like, I don't know if I should have done that. Like, given that him at that one time or that screen time or whatever, or said that thing to that response. Like, but it's not like, man, buddy, when you were upset the other day and I was coming like from a hard call and I was upset and short with you and I told you to, whatever. I think that was our last day. I'm done. I can't raise you anymore. I'm out. Like that's not what it can be like in parenting. So for some reason or another, diet, nutrition, people are all in or all out. Well, let's hang out in like the 80%, the 70, the 50% to start. Like get back on quicker. Don't have 2 L's in a row.
That's it, dude. Don't have 2 L's in a row. Don't let those suckers stack up because you can compound and snowball effect in the opposite direction quick.
And you talk about momentum or like motivation. Like I haven't been motivated to do anything ever. Like recently, I swear to God, I have like no motivation to work out. But this morning I was in the gym at like, my wife's like, you need to be home by 7. I'm like, cool. I gotta leave at like 5:30, which is like late for me now. But I used to like wake up every day at 4:30. I'm recently retired from in-person training, which is different for me. But, the only reason I was at that gym at 6 a.m. this morning is because I said I would. And like my identity right now, the person I want to be, whenever I say something, I do it. That's it. Like it's a hard line that I'm not willing to cross. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And if I don't do it, and it's probably because I forgot and I got a lot of other shit on. So just like remind me, you're not annoying me. I said I do it. I'm going to do it. Just tell me I got to do it again. And that's again, like what a coach should be doing. Like, right. Like just holding you accountable. All right. Seriously, cut it off before I keep like tangent.
Dude, we could go for so long. We'll also put your socials in the comment section of the description down below too, so you guys know where to find Ryan. But always a pleasure, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me again, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're the man. Go follow Ryan. Go join his group. If you're a busy mom or dad, go get in touch with him for coaching. He's the fucking man. Every time he comes on, drops bombs. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.